So, Kal Kadosh, good evening. We're starting with the Daat Zekenim Mibaale Hatosafot on Parashat Vayishlah. Okay, Pasuk Hey. It says, Vayishlach Yaakov, Ko tomerun ladoni le'esav. What does that mean exactly? Ulfi shekirao adon ne'enash. From the fact that Yaakov Avinu called Esav my master, he was punished. Amar lo yitbarach, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ani amarti, I said, V'rav ya'avod sa'ir. The elder one will serve the younger one. Ve'ata karata adon? You called him an adon? You called him your master? Shemona pe'amim, not only once, not only twice, 8 times. So he says, what happens? Sheken timtza b'parasha. That's how you're going to find it in the parasha. 8 times, if you count it through the parasha, he called him adon. He called him his mountain. He called him his master, Yaakov, to Esav. He called him his master and he bowed down to him. Chayecha, it should be in your lifetime. There's going to be, because of the 8 times that you called him Adon, there's going to be 8 kings that are going to come out of Esav before there's even one king of the Jews. It's the end of the parasha. At the end of this week's parasha, you're going to see the Lifnei Meloch Melech. There's a whole bunch of kings of the Esav. That's written in the end of the parasha, chapter Lamedvav, pasuk Lamed Aleph. Ve'ele hamelachim Hashem alechu be'eretz Edom lifnei Meloch Melech livnei Yisrael. That's what's written in the parasha. So if you remember, we did mention once upon a time a beautiful Balaturim. The Balaturim actually mentions this Yesod as well, which means that if you actually look at it, it's something incredible there that the Balaturim brings us down. And the way that we explained it was, where it says the Balaturim, it says over here, with the way that we explained it is that ואלה המלכים בשביל שאמר יעקב לעשו חטא פעמים right אדונים מלכו חטא מלכים קודם ניסה לו כדי מלכו חטא מלכים עד יהורם וימיו פשע אדום. And that's when they actually went and they sinned. However, though, also the Balaturim brought the same yesod. So if you remember, once we were explaining that this is the explanation. What happened is that before he called them Adoni, he wasn't actually a nation. Who was the one that created the nation of Esav, of Edom? It was Yaakov. Once Yaakov went and he said Adoni, it created Saro Shel Esav. And that's why immediately, what happened? Immediately, the Saro Shel Esav came to fight with him. Beforehand, he wasn't even a nation. He was nothing. Yaakov was the one that created that monster. By the fact that he went and he called them Adoni, he created it, and that's why immediately he came to attack him. And that I actually learned from the Siftei Chachamim on Masechet Megillah.
So we got Hitler because of that?
Yes. We got, yeah? Yeah. Yeah, that's the way it is. Okay. Which one? Okay, fine. You're right. It's more Amalek than Esav, but it's the concept. The concept behind it is that it is. Of course. Amalek comes from Esav. Okay. Fine. So basically what happened is that because there it was talking about the mazal. The Gemara Masechet Megillah was talking about the mazal of a person. Sometimes they get afraid because their mazal sees it, even though they themselves, with their physical eyes, cannot see something.
Sorry, but why would Yaakov bow down to me?
Very good. So if you remember, we learned in the Seder Adorot last week that the Seder Adorot said that Rivka sent to Yaakov Avinu telling him that he shouldn't fight against his brother, but the opposite, he should appease his brother. Because if he appeases his brother, he'll stand a chance to go against him. And that's exactly that he listened to his mother. He did prepare for war, but the first thing was to appease. Now, the problem is sometimes you appease and sometimes you appease. Yeah, sometimes you appease. Yeah, very good, very nice. And then, well, that's always. Vayira Yaakov. So it says, right, Yaakov was afraid. So it says over here, right, the entire hatred of Esav, that's the next one, Pasuk Zayin. Right, the entire concept of, by the way, the entire concept of the berachot was also because of Rivka. So she was the one that made the problems. She had to correct it afterwards. Yeah, Vayira Yaakov. So he says, Yaakov Avinu comes and he's all afraid. ירא היה שיועיל לעשו זכות שכיבד אב ואם. There was one zechut that Esav had more powerful than any other human being. What was that? Kibud avayim. The Gemara says that we had to learn Kibud avayim from Esav Rasha, which means it was such a powerful mitzvah that he had in his hands, he was afraid. Vehu lo kiyem kvar right avru 20 shana. He didn't do Kibud avayim for 20 years already. And Esav, every single moment, is doing this mitzvah. No, it was 100% with his heart. 100% with his heart. That wasn't his, it wasn't him, it was his wives. It wasn't the same thing. Yeah? It's not him. It was his wives who were doing it, not him. Okay, Inami, another explanation. Sheyo'il lo zechut eretz Yisrael, vehu haya bechutz la'aretz. Yeah, he says, you're being recorded, yeah? Bechol ma'asecha v'sever nichtavim. So it says, Inami, he says, sheyo'il lo zechut eretz Yisrael, vehu haya bechutz la'aretz. Esav was in Israel. Yaakov Avinu was in Chutz La'aretz. So that's another mitzvah. So because of these two mitzvot, the mitzvah of Kibud Avayim and the mitzvah of Eretz Yisrael, Yaakov Avinu was afraid of those zechuyot. And because of that, he was afraid of actually coming and fighting him. Vayetzelo, then he was metzer. What does that mean? Because it says Vayira, he was afraid, and then Vayetzelo, he was like suffering. What does that mean? So it says the next one, Metzar hayal shaya yareh me'esav lachar shivtichu HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The opposite. We always think that Vayetzelo, Rashi brings another explanation, but here the explanation he's bringing down is that he was metzer, he was suffering in the fact that he was afraid that how could he be afraid of Esav if HaKadosh Baruch Hu already told him everything's going to be okay? HaKadosh Baruch Hu told you, he gave you avtacha, he gave you a promise. Everything is going to be okay. So if everything's going to be okay, why is he afraid? So the fact that he was afraid, that's why he was upset. He was suffering. He was suffering because of that. Okay? Then it says, Davar Acher, another explanation. Vayira k'deprishi. Vayira was like what we said, because of the mitzvah of Kibud Avayim and Eretz Yisrael. Vayetzel lo, lefi sheshama shaya ba likrato lorgo, since he heard that Esav was coming to kill him. Umitchila amar yikremu yumei v'levi v'arga. So he went and he said, I'm only going to kill Yaakov when? When his father passes away. Amar, so he said to himself, in ken if so, Yitzchak aviv adaimet. His father Yitzchak for sure died. So because of that, Amar, right, so he says, that's why it's good that he said, the God of Yitzchak, because he thought that he was dead. He said, if Esav's coming to kill me, it means that my father died. So he's upset. He's suffering. He's in distress. Why? He thinks that his father passed away. So that's why. Now, according to that, it comes up beautiful. Okay? Fine. No, not that he's only going to come. That's what Rivka already told him. Rivka already said that he's only going to come and attack him when he dies. So he says, if he's coming to kill me, it means that the father passed away. That's why he has tsar. Beautiful explanation. Okay? And now with that, you understand the next explanation. Because it says right afterwards in the Pasuk, it says over there, right? Elokei Avi Yitzchak. The God of Avi Yitzchak. Now we know whenever it says Elokei, it means that what? That he already passed away. He was already dead, but he wasn't dead. So the Rashi answers, no, he was blind, and a blind person is considered dead, and this and that, and back and forth, and back and forth. No. According to this, he thought he was dead. He thought he passed away, and because of that, he said, Elokei Avi Yitzchak also. Okay? Capish? Fine. Pasuk Yud Bet. So you go to Pasuk Yud Bet, it says, Ki arei anochi oto. I am afraid. Yeah? It says, I am afraid. So he says as follows. What does that mean that he was afraid? It says over here, Shala matronita. A matronita asked, Hech yareh me'esav achar shivtichu HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this question was the question of a Goya. A Goya came and she asked, right? How could it be that he was afraid if HaKadosh Baruch Hu already ascertained to him that everything's going to be okay? Ana talmid chacham echad tshuva b'tzida. The Talmid Chacham answered very wisely. And She'amar, because he said, Ki b'makli avarti et hayarden hazeh. What does that mean? Ki b'makli avarti et hayarden hazeh. He says, because with my makel, with my staff, I passed through this Yarden, through the Jordan River. Klomar keshivtichani HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo hayiti kim be'atzmi. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me this guarantee, I was by myself. Keep it clear, I only had my makel, I only had the staff. I didn't have anything else. But now I'm blessed with a whole bunch of people. I'm not afraid. Hakadosh Baruch Hu never told me he was going to protect my wife and children. He told me he was going to protect me. So I'm okay. I have an avtacha from Hakadosh Baruch Hu that I know nothing will happen. What about my wife and children? This is Yaakov saying it. So because of that, he was afraid. He was afraid not because of himself. Hakadosh Baruch Hu already gave him the guarantee. He knows 100%. What he's afraid about is there's no avtacha for his wife and children. That's what he's afraid about. Capish? You understand? Very good. Next. And no matter how much he could defend him, it doesn't mean that they're not going to be killed. Right? You're one person, you're trying to defend a whole bunch. Still. 100%, but you could still have dead children and then multiply it through one. Doesn't happen.
So he's saying he didn't promise that.
He didn't promise to protect from all of them. No, that's the thing.
It could be one of.
Yeah, lo aleno, it could have been that they could have died. You know, what are you going to do then? Understand? Fine. So now what happens is as follows. Yeah? And he says like this. Pasuk Kaf Hey. Vayivater Yaakov levado. So Yaakov stays by himself. So it says over here, Piresh Rashi explains, Melamed Shenishar al pachim ktanim. He went back for small jugs. V'smach ledavar midichtiv levado, al tikre levado, ela lekado. Don't say it's levado by himself, or rather lekado. Davar acher lashon bet abad. When it says levado, it's bet abad. Shemoshchim mimenu shemen zayit. That means the what you call when you call the oil press, it's called bet abad, levado, bet abad. So therefore he says, and that's where they draw the oil. And therefore it's normal to keep the oil in small pachim ktanim, in small jugs. Okay? Fine. Next.
He went back just to get oil?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
So we already explained it in many different ways. Number one, we said the Shach al Torah says that this jug of oil is the same jug of oil that was used to anoint, whether it was Aaron HaKohen, Moshe Rabbeinu, all the Kelim, the Mishkan, all the kings, and that was the same Pach HaShemen that was found during the time of Chanukah. We're coming to Chanukah. Yes, this is a Shach on this parasha. On this. So imagine, and they found that same bottle, the exact same bottle.
What, it never ended?
Huh?
It never ended?
Never ended. Never ended. Yeah, so think about it. You know what that is? But by the way, you should know, that's the Shach. The Shach says that. You know who the Shach is? The Shach was one of the... Yes, until the Bet HaMikdash, they still had it. And not the first Bet HaMikdash. The second Bet HaMikdash and the end of the second Bet HaMikdash. Remember, Chanukah is the end, 200 years before the destruction of the second Bet HaMikdash. Yeah? Very good. Okay. So that was the Shach. However, though, we gave another shiur once, and the other shiur was based upon the tzaddikim, chaviv alehem mamonam yoter migufam. The tzaddikim, because they never want to steal, it's so chaviv lehem their money, that's why you think, he's stingy. Not stingy. He's a pashut that since he realizes that every single thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you is a beracha from Hashem, you're going to make sure you're not going to lose anything. And therefore, nothing goes to waste. So he left behind some jugs of oil. He's going to go back and get it. Right, but the other answer was a beautiful answer of the Shach. Okay, next. Pasuk Lamed Gimel. Al ken lo yochlu bnei Yisrael et hagid hanasheh. So we know that the Bnei Yisrael are not allowed to eat the gid hanasheh. Why are they not allowed to eat the gid hanasheh? Because the angel came and he hit the gid hanasheh of Yaakov Avinu. Yeah, because of that. So it says here, Al ken lezichkaron hanes, to remember. Lezichron hanes, to remember the miracle. Shenitzal Yaakov min hamalach, that he was saved from the angel. Shelo nagala bechaf yirecho velo harago, that he only touched his kaf yirecho, but he didn't kill him, and he only touched the thigh, but he wasn't able to kill him. Mashal le'adam shu chash berosho tamido belibo. Imagine a guy that always has a headache or heartaches. Umekabel alav shelo le'echol od min harosh u'min halev, kedei sheyeh lo refuah. So he accepts upon himself that he'll never eat anymore from the heart or from the head of the animal in order that he has a refuah. So the first explanation is to remember the miracle, meaning it was a miracle that he only touched the Gid HaNasheh and nowhere else, So from then on, no eating Gidan Hashem. That's one explanation of the Daat Zekenim Mibaale Hatosafot. You understand? That's one explanation. Another explanation, listen to this. Davar acher, al ken she'asu bnei Yisrael shelo kahogen. From the fact that the Jews did not act properly. Why? Shinichu lalechet yichidi. They let him go on his own. They let their father go on by himself. Velo asu lo levia. They didn't accompany their father. Vehuzak al yadam begidan hashe. And he was damaged in the gidan hashe. Lekach asar lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu gidan hashe. HaKadosh Baruch Hu prohibited upon all Jews the gidan hashe. Kedei shiyu zehirim b'mitzvat levia misham va'elach. That every single Jew should be very cautious in doing the mitzvah of levia, doing the mitzvah of accompanying other people. That is the mitzvah that we're learning from here. Ulkach, and therefore, uzhar Yaakov lelavot et Yosef beno kesheshalcho elechav. He was very careful that he did livui to Yosef, right, of Yosef to his son when he sent him to the brothers. Meaning when Yaakov sent Yosef to his brothers, he did the mitzvah of levia. Why did he know it was so important to do the mitzvah levia? Because he already saw what happened to him because of the Eid levia, meaning because of the fact that they didn't accompany him. And because of that, it was a punishment. Meaning, according to the first answer of the Daat Zekenim Mibaale Hatosafot, why don't we eat Gidan Hashem? It's a remembrance of the miracle. So to remember the miracle, no eating of the Gidan Hashem. The second answer is the exact opposite. It's a punishment for us. Why? Because we let it happen. Because if it wasn't for us that we would have done the mitzvah leviyah, nothing would have happened to him. So therefore, be'emet, we are punished. What's the punishment? No gidan hashem. Okay. 1 minute, yeah? Leviyah is to accompany people. That's a mitzvah. Yes. Daled amot, to escort them.
Because his kids didn't go with him?
Exactly, so they were punished. We were all punished, all Jews.
Isn't that like a more, when you're fighting an angel, isn't that very personal? Something?
What's personal? The reason why he actually got into the fight of the angel was only because...
would have beat the angel up?
No. You have to remember that you have a special protection when you go out with Leviyah. That special protection actually is able to protect you from everything. Yeah, and therefore that special protection would have protected him against the angel. Maybe the angel would have come. The exact same thing you could ask on the Torah. The Torah says you have a mitzvah of Leviyah, and if you're not going to accompany a person, and then he gets killed on the way, it's your fault. I'm going to ask you, you went and you accompanied him for 1 mile. After that, the first mile, he got killed. So now what? So what are you doing? So what do you gain? Answer is yes, because there is a special protection that you put upon a person once you start coming and you start coming. So now, Perek Lamed Gimel Pasuk Vav says that the Zekenim Mibaale Hatosafot, V'digashna hashefachot v'tishtachavena. So first came the shefachot, then they bowed down. So it says here, hashefachot, aval yaldehen lo yishtachavu. So now it's written that only the shefachot bowed down, but not their children. Why not? Shamru, because they said, imotenu enan chashuvot kamonu. Our mothers are not as important as we are. So therefore, only the shefachot bowed down, but they, the children of the shefachot, they're higher, right, in hierarchy, they didn't bow down. Aval bnei Leah, but the children of Leah, once they saw that Leah bowed, gam hem ishtachavu kamoa. So they did, right? So therefore, there was shefachot and there was Leah, right? There's a shefachot, 2 shefachot, Bilha and Zilpa, and then there's Leah and then there's Rachel. So therefore, the shefachot, they came first. Read it in the pasuk. Look in the pasuk. The pasuk says, right? When you're going to read in the pasuk, it says that they came first. Yeah, it says like this. It says, right? It says like this, right? Right? And he comes and he says like this, so first came the shefachot, they came with their children, but they bowed down. Doesn't say anything about their children. Then it says, Leah came with her children, they all bowed. What's going on? Why is it that the shefachot, only they bowed, but not the children? Leah bows with her children, and then came Yosef and Rachel. But Yosef came before Rachel, and then they bowed. And again, they both bowed. Explaining that that's the reason why is because the shefachot came and they bowed. But their children said, 1 second, but we're not like our mother. We're higher than our mothers. Our mothers are maidservants. So therefore, they bowed, but we're not going to bow, so they didn't bow. But once Leah bowed, so her children bowed with her as well. So then they also bowed. And then it was Rachel and Yosef. So now comes the next pasuk and says, right? Pasuk Yud Aleph. So pasuk Yud Aleph comes and he says Yaakov Avinu, come, I want to give you a whole bunch of things. I'm going to give you and I'm going to give you. So he comes and he tells him, no, I've got a lot. So comes Yaakov and he answers him, I have everything. Yesh li kol. What does that mean? Pirush, sheyesh li kol hatzarich li lalechet negdecha. When he says that I have everything, it means I have everything to combat you. I have everything to fight against you. Shekvar nolad Yosef, because Yosef was already born. Yesh li ata esh velehava lisrof et kash shelcha. I already have the fire and the torch in order to destroy your kash, your straw. If you remember, we learned this last week. You remember with the Haftarah and everything? That it's actually the Haftarah this week? It's this week's Haftarah. You remember that's what we saw with Sammy. That basically what happened? What? What's Chamesh? Yosef was 5. I wouldn't say 5. He was 6 years old, maybe.
1 year is a lot.
Yeah, fine. Perek Lamed Daled. Yeah, Perek Lamed Daled Zayin. No, the reason why I say 6 is very simple. Remember when Yosef was born, that's when he wanted to go home. You understand? That's when he wanted to go home. No, it was just basically trying to explain in the pasuk why is it only written that the shefachot bowed and not their children. So he just explained why. Yes, exactly. But the shefachot, it was only the shefachot and not their children. So why not? So he explained why. Yeah, you just explained. Yeah. He was the shalhevet.
Yeah, but
yeah, that's what it is. He is the shalhevet. The second that he was born, he already knew that this is my weapon against him. So pasuk Perek Lamedale pasuk Zayin says, Ki nevala asa Israel. There was a nevala. Here we're talking about already after Vatetzeh Dinah, which means that Dinah went out and then she was violated. And then what happened is that the Bnei Yisrael said that there was a nevala which was done. There was something which was disgusting, something which is a nevala. What does that mean? Afilu im bat hediot. Even with the regular girl, it was considered something terrible to violate. You don't just go, even nowadays, right? Everyone knows violation is something, you understand? You can't just violate a girl. So he says, Kol shekenim bat Yaakov shu adam chashuv, all the more so Yaakov Avinu, that he's a very important person, you can't just come and do whatever you want. So then it says, what happened? They went and they agreed, right? In Pasuk Kaf Hey, so you're skipping around a little bit. In Pasuk Kaf Hey, 25, it comes and it says, that all of a sudden they told them that you have to do Brit Milah. So they agreed. They do Brit Milah. So what happens? It was the third day, and they were hurting. So what does it say? Tema. Ma ra'u leramot bnei ha'ir lemor lahem lehimol ve'achar kach haragum. What did they see to choose Brit Milah davka? Why is it that the Jews chose and told them, listen, you know what, we're going to make a treaty with you. What's a treaty? You do Brit Milah, and then they come and they kill them out. What's the purpose? What were they trying to do here?
But didn't they come to them first?
What?
Didn't they approach them?
Of course, but the question is why? Why did they choose that method? So he says, Yesh lomar, shelo asur rama'ut, they didn't do any trickery. Ki bayom hashlishi hayu mitztarin, vayu mitchartin al hamilah, ulkach hargum. It comes out that now it comes out even more beautiful. That what happened? Be'emet, they wouldn't have killed them. They wouldn't have killed them at all. What happened? They did the Brit Milah. Yes. What happened? On the third day, they were suffering. So what happened? So all of a sudden, they start regretting it. They say, why did we do Brit Milah? Says the Jews, you didn't want to do Brit Milah. Now we're going to kill you. So then they went and they killed them. So he says over here, everybody did Brit Milah. The entire city did Brit Milah.
But the killing was done by
Yeah. They went and they killed them, but it was the entire city that they did Brit Milah. Okay? So he says, V'tema, lama imtinu ad yom hashlishi. Yeah? Why did they wait until the third day? Well, you're not going to say that they were hurting more on the third day than the first and second day. But rather the reason why. They couldn't do the Brit Milah in all one day, and not in 2 days. Miyad vayichu ish charbo. It was only on the third day, which means not like Rashi. Rashi already by us and already by Parashat Vayera. What does Rashi say? It was the third day to his Brit Milah. Why? Because that's the most painful day. Says the Daat Zekenim Mibaale Hatosafot, you don't have to come onto that. You don't have to come onto that they all did Brit Milah on the same day, and therefore on the third day it was the most powerful day, and therefore since they were suffering so much, now they're all regretting it, and then they had to kill them. Very, very simple. Mathematics, logistics. They couldn't do Brit Milah to the entire city in one day, and not in 2 days. It took them 3 days to do Brit Milah. By the time it came the third day, and now they come and they finish everyone doing Brit Milah, now everyone's hurting. Now the fact that everybody's hurting, now they're regretting it, now they're going to come, and they're going to do the Brit Milah. Okay, 1 second. So says Perek Lamed Hey Pasuk Daled, Vayitzmon Otam. What does it mean Vayitzmon Otam? Midrash, Zu Avodah Zarah Demut Yonah. When it says over here that they hid them, we were talking about the Midrash says in Bereshit Rabbah that it was an Avodah Zarah that looked like a pigeon, that looked like a Yonah. That they found by the kutin, they found the Demut Yonah that they were actually serving as Avodah Zarah. So it means this is an Avodah Zarah. This was the Avodah Zarah that it says over there, that he went and he started looking and he started, Vayitzmon Otam Tachat Ahar, that he started hiding it. That was the Avodah Zarah that they found. Then it says, Vatamot Devorah, Pasuk Chet. So the Devorah, which remember, Devorah was a Meneket Rivka. She was the midwife of Rivka. So she died. So it says here Midrash, Ki ma shekatuv gabe Devorah haneviah vehi yoshevet tachat tomer Devorah zeu alon bachut te Devorah dehacha. This is the alon bachut of this Devorah, which means the Devorah which came later on, which that was Devorah Neviah, was because of she was under alon bachut. That alon bachut of crying came from this Devorah, right? Of that she was meneket Rivka. If you remember, we did bring down this entire concept that she sent her meneket in order to bring him back. And then if you remember, she passed away. We'll go through it in a few minutes. Okay? No. But then it was afterwards, it was the meneket Rivka, it says in the Torah. Okay? Then what happened is that in Pasuk Yudchet, it says that Rachel is giving birth and she calls her second child Ben Oni. Right? What is Ben Oni? Al Shem Ma'aseh de Pilegesh Begiva She'atid Latzet Ad Sham. It says, right? It says, where does Ben Oni come from? My child that caused this Oni, this like suffering in essence was Pilegesh Begiva. We know the story of Pilegesh Begiva is that it came from the tribe of Binyamin, and Binyamin did a war. It was a civil war between Binyamin and all of Bnei Israel. And Binyamin were almost completely wiped out. Yeah, they were mamash almost until the end. Right? And why? Because of the famous story of Pilegesh. The Pilegesh, what happened was, the Gemara brings down a machlochet, whether, that's why it says that a person should be not very strict in his house, whether he found the hair or he found a fly. And Bekitsur, there was a whole thing there. What exactly did he find and where did he find it? And then afterwards, the Gemara says that she ran to her parents' house and he went after her. And then the people of Binyamin came and there was a whole thing over there, that they wanted to do something which was very, very improper, right? Coming out of the closet. And Bekitsur, to make a very long story short, they went and they violated this Pilegesh until, right, all the people that were there, until she basically dropped dead. Because they just, imagine so many people going with her, that basically she was dead. So he went, the husband came, and he cut her up into 12 pieces, and he sent a piece to every single tribe, telling them this is what the Sheva Binyamin is doing, right, with the entire story. And all the tribes went and they made an entire civil war against Binyamin. And it was war meaning between Jews. That there were thousands and thousands and thousands killed, right, because of this. So that was the story of Pilegesh Begiva. Okay, then it says over here, the last one on the parasha, which is Pasuk of Bet, Vayishka ve'bila Pilegesh Aviv. So this is talking about Reuven, with everyone knows the story of Reuven switching the beds. So it says, Yesh Mefarshim, some people explain, that he just moved the bed sheets, the spreads, right, from this place. Lashon vayishkavhu. So he's just saying that that's the pshat vayishkav. Vayishkav means that he actually moved it. So that's what he did. It doesn't mean that he actually literally lied down, right? But it just means that he moved the bed sheets. So with this, we actually finish the Daat Zekenim Mibaale Hatosafot on Parashat Vayishlah.